you, Sophie. Well, first of all, thank you to Sophie for inviting me here. I am so grateful to Sophie. She's a dear friend of mine. And well, she calls me a mentor, but we are colleagues and we teach together. So please, let's thank Sophie. Yay! You're all got hats in your hands, so it's hard to tell. As Sophie said, my name is Annabelle Fisher, but please feel free to call me Annie. My friends call me Annie, and that's what Sophie calls me. So this evening, for about 20 minutes or so, I am your guide across the most intrepid, the most dangerous, and the scariest 2-foot journey known to humankind. And also, I am an emotional freedom techniques practitioner, trainer, like Sophie, and a business mentor. And I love the work that I do. And the thing that I love most about the work that I do is seeing new therapists, new practitioners go out into the world and make a difference. Wow. How many of you want to make a difference in the world? Oh, fabulous. Thank you, ladies. But what does it really mean to make a difference? Well, sometimes we think it has to be massive and purposeful, like the work of Nelson Mandela or maybe Martin Luther King. But for me, making a difference means creating a subtle shift in the moment. And that subtle shift takes place when we cross that 2-foot journey. Ooh. I've always wanted to make a difference in the world, ever since I was really small. But I used to think it had to be a lot of hard work, a real struggle, and it had to be massive. And I know where that seed was planted. So let me take you back to when I was quite young. Picture me, 8 or 9 years old. I had pigtails, freckles, and rosy cheeks, and had the thickest bottle-bottom glasses you have ever seen. But I didn't care, because I acted and I sang. I played musical instruments. And you know, even at that very young age, I wrote poetry and music. Wow. I guess you could say that I lived life from my heart. And then when I was 11, I was sent to a very prim and proper all-girls English school. We had to memorize facts, work hard, and pass a lot of exams. Did any of you go to a school like that? A few, yes. Sounds like my school, by the look on your faces. Chemistry and physics and maths, and it was a struggle for me because I wasn't naturally academic. But I had my imagination. And guess what my favourite subject at school was? Daydreaming! So my desk was at the back of the class, right next to the window. Perfect for daydreaming. One day I was dreaming that I was on the West End stage in London. I was having so much fun. And then suddenly, wham! I spun round, and my headmaster had smacked me over the head with a hardback book. And the room went very quiet. And people began shuffling in their chairs, straining to see what was going on in the back of the class. And then my headmaster said this to me. Annabelle Fisher, you will never amount to anything. I was so ashamed. And I knew in that place there was no room for me to be in my heart. There was no value in being creative and imaginative. So over the next few years, I stopped acting and singing and all of those things. And I went up into my head, into the attic, and I memorized and I overthought and I worked hard. Because if what my headmaster had said was true, then I would have to work harder than anyone else. And that is exactly what I did. And the next 20 years of my life took a lot of twists and turns. And then in 2004, I became an EFT practitioner. How did I get so lucky? I worked hard and I loved what I did. I was right back in my heart again, deeply connected. I could be creative and imaginative, just as I'd been as a little girl. But then in quiet times, I started to hear my headmaster's voice again. And he was telling me I wasn't amounting to anything. And I went back up into the attic, and this time I stayed there. I started to overthink, push myself, demand more of myself. I started working 7 days a week. I was chained to my computer. I was in a workaholic overdrive. And the work that I had loved with such a passion started to wear me down. And I criticized myself. And I judged what I was doing and not doing. I was filled with doubt. Here I was, counseling people in how to live a life of passion from their hearts, on purpose. But I disconnected myself from all of that. I was very ashamed of myself. I was a fraud. And I spiraled into a dark depression. Because I didn't have the guts to ask my friends or my EFT colleagues for help. But I did have some help from my own personal therapist. You've probably seen him around. He's a slender, tall fellow, green in colour. And when you take the cork off, pop, he eases all your troubles. Dr. Cabernet Sauvignon. Let me tell you, ladies, Cabernet and I formed a very close relationship over a period of time. He soothed me. He had a very soothing manner, and I could tell him anything. But I paid a heavy consequence for all the overworking and the drinking. I lost dear friends. Because let's face it, I wasn't creating any space for them in my life. I was too busy working. Why would they stick around? But there was someone who stuck around. And that was my husband, Michael. And 17 years before, he'd fallen in love with my heart. And now, he was married to an overthinking, analytical head. And I didn't even notice, because I was on a mission to make a big difference in the world. And I criticized him, because I thought he wasn't making any difference. And I wore him down. All his self-esteem and his confidence. I became like my headmaster, critical and demeaning, until one day there was nothing left and we separated. Now you might think that something as powerful as that would make me change. But you know, sometimes it's the most subtle things that create the biggest impact in our lives. And in June of this year, I was talking to one of my speaker coaches, Belinda, and I don't know what she said, but whatever it was, in that moment, it brought the attic, vroom, right back into my heart. And I could feel again so powerfully from my heart. And it hit me that just by being me, I was already making the difference. All that overworking and overthinking and high achieving, it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't making any difference. I knew I couldn't be in the attic one moment longer. In 2013, the Institute of Heart Math reported that when we're in our heart space, we are 60 times more powerful than when we're operating from our mind alone. Wow. I wanted to be someone like you, someone who was connected to her head and her heart. You see, the most treacherous, the most dangerous 2-foot journey that we could cross is the one from our head to our heart. And I crossed it in that moment when I talked to Belinda. It's the journey I referred to when I started. It's only 2 feet, but it feels like a frickin' abyss. There was no time to waste. Let's get out of our heads so we can make a difference in the world. I had to get moving. I tell you, I moved so fast, but I had to slow it down for you there just so you could see it. Let me share with you just how much better my life became. Well, I looked at my schedule and I immediately cut down from 7 days to 3 days a week. I stopped taking on new clients. I could breathe. There was so much space in my schedule. I created a morning ritual. So I'd go out onto the deck with a cup of coffee and I enjoyed the sunshine coming down on my face. I heard the world wake up. I started gardening. I plunged my hands into the soil. I got soil under my fingers. You see, when I'm gardening, there's no head involved. It's all about my hands and my heart. And I started art classes again. Back there, I had taken art classes, but I was so up in my head, I was analysing what I was doing, I wanted everything to be perfect. It was exhausting. Now, I went abstract, and I threw the paints on the canvas, and I used a palette knife and my fingers. I was connected with my heart to the canvas. And because I was making a difference in my life, I wasn't pushing myself, and my heart softened. And I welcomed back someone into my life. My husband Michael and I had been separated for 1 year. And we started dating again. Yes! Can you remember the first time you fell in love?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me all over again. We went for long evening walks. We cooked meals together and ate them. We went on rides on his motorbike. We talked and we shared. We laughed out loud and we cried our hearts out. And because I was so much more relaxed, he could relax. And he fell back in love with my heart. And I fell head over heels in love with him again. Now, for all these fabulous and wonderful things happening, there was a black cloud coming overhead and it was descending fast. You remember that I'd cut my work schedule in half. And I started to panic because I realized I didn't have the income that I needed. I couldn't pay my bills. I was frightened. And of course, I went up into the attic again. And that's when Nigel popped up. Nigel is my ego. And if you think of Nigel, think of someone like Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales. So of course, you'll excuse me, I have to get into position with my hands behind my back. And this is what Nigel said that day. Annabelle, darling, you appear to be having way too much fun in your head and your heart. It's time to work hard again. I can't tell you how strong the pull was to go back over there. I could have slipped back into that workaholic overdrive because that was my programming. But my heart pulled me back over here. And it reminded me that in order to make a difference in the world, I had to start by making a difference in my own life first. And I was reminded of a principle that my mentor, Dov Baron, had taught me. Failure is an important ingredient of our success, but quitting is not. And in that moment, I refused to quit. And I chose to move through all that pull and push and chaos. And you may remember when I started, I mentioned that I used to believe that making a difference had to be massive. But in this new place of different that I found myself, I realized it didn't matter in how many lives I was making a difference in. It didn't matter the level of difference. What was important was that just by being me, I was making a difference. There were differences in my work too. Rather than worrying about numbers in workshops and trainings with Sophie, I began to make a connection with every student. I was vulnerable and I opened up to them, and they reciprocated. So the learning was deeper and the healing was richer. And because I was living from my heart, money started to flow back in. More and more people came to our trainings. And there was a difference in my relationship with Michael. Back there, we'd stuffed down our feelings. We'd been too afraid to share them. We were afraid of one another. But now, we could easily express what we needed and how we were feeling. It was different, and it was good. And all because I wasn't up in the attic all the time. Of course I went up there, but I was able to come back down into my heart again. Now, what on earth does all of this have to do with you fabulous ladies sitting here this evening? Well, you know how so many of us parents really want to do everything we can, our very best, just so that our children can develop their own passions in life. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And you also probably know that because we're so focused on our children developing their own passions, we don't actually have very much time for ourselves to develop our passions. Is that right? Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. The main problem is, because we want to offer every opportunity for our children, we're willing to do absolutely anything and everything. Like get up at some god-awful hour to take them to hockey in the morning, or drive to lessons, maybe music or drama, or spend the evenings and the weekends watching them play their sports. We end up spending more and more time with working for our children and what their passions are, and actually less and less time with ourselves. It's exhausting. And we lose connection with what we love. It's like we sacrifice our passions. And it just doesn't work. Now, we all know that if we could value ourselves as much as we value our fabulous children, and at the same time, if we could create some kind of structure and put it in place, a support network like carpooling, then we would have lots more time in our schedule so we could focus on ourselves. Then we would have a rich and fulfilling life of our own, developing and honouring our passions, while at the same time supporting our children and their developing passions. Let's make this easy and let's make it fun. Let's get out of our heads so we can make a difference in the world. Just imagine this. You wake up in the morning and stretch. No alarm this morning. You've slept in. Pull the duvet up just a few more minutes. It's okay, because your support system has taken the boys to hockey this morning. What's that you smell? Freshly brewing coffee. Now, I have to be honest with you. I actually have no sense of smell, so I have no idea what coffee smells like. But I've been told it smells really good by Sophie, so let's just play again. Freshly brewed coffee, made by the special person in your life, wanting to make a difference in your morning. So you go downstairs, get the coffee, you look out the window, the clouds are parting, the sun's coming through, there are birds in the garden. You breathe it in. This is your time, your space. Look at your clock. You've got loads of time. Your watch. You've got loads of time. Maybe you could snuggle down with your coffee and your favourite book. Maybe do some yoga. After a while, the boys come back. They get ready for school. Off you go. And then you go off to do whatever you need to do in the day. Whether that's working, caring for someone. It's time to pick them up from school. Jump in the car, they're excited to see you, and you're excited to see them, because you're taking number 1 son to his music lesson, and you're bringing number 2 son with you to your art class. This is time for you to spend time for yourself. A whole hour connecting your heart to the canvas. And number 2 son's having an absolute blast with his canvas. You drive home with the boys, and you've got a magical game planned. It's called Let's Tidy the House Together as Fast as We Can. And there has to be a payoff, I understand. So whoever does it the fastest, they get the Game Boy, the Wii, the iPad, what is it these days?
The Xbox.
All of the above, the Xbox. Then there's a knock at the door. It's one of your friends coming to take the boys for a play date. And bonus, she's going to cook dinner for them. You have the evening with your loved one. You can relax, spend time together, cook a meal, enjoy the space. Now I asked you to imagine, but what if that could be your reality? Now I represent Dove Barron and the Authentic Speaker Academy for Leadership, where you'll learn strategies in how to get out of your head, so you don't need to worry about all the stuff at home that needs to be done. You can connect to your heart and connect to your passions and allow them to grow. You will learn how to value who you are just as much as you value your fabulous children. You will be given leadership skills, how to be a leader of yourself, so that you can structure your schedule, make sure there's space in it like I did over there. Then you can develop your passions. You can spend time for you. You'll also be a real role model for those children, because you will be showing them that living your life is as important as them living their lives. You'll become a magnificent communicator. You'll be speaking from your heart. You will be speaking with ease and confidence, asking for help and delegating. And you can communicate with your children that your passions are as important as theirs. The question is, how important so that you can have more time for yourself? What would it be worth to you to have that rich and fulfilling life of your own, where you deserve to develop your passions while you support your children developing theirs? I really appreciate you being here this evening. I am grateful for your time. If you would like to ask me any questions, please feel free to come and speak to me. I'll be here for a little while longer, and I can show you how you can take that most dangerous 2-foot journey. Thank you. I am Annabelle.